Attorneys and witnesses in the city's civil suit against the Stigmatines appeared in Superior Court last week in Woburn. They battled over access to the property and relocating a small number of retired priests still living on the site.
Once you go to make the taking, you're going to throw these people off the property. You're going to take their property that they've had for 100 years. So please do it right. Do the relocation so we know how much it's going to cost, where are the priests going to go, and let's get with the program.
They've had the same year with $18 million in their pocket. And as I heard the testimony, as opposed to Attorney Flynn's testimony, the testimony said they really haven't done anything. Because they really want more money for the taking is what it comes down to.
The city took the Stigmatines property at 554 Lexington Street by eminent domain last July. After the Stigmatines threatened to contest the validity of the taking, the city sued them last summer seeking permission to test on site and other damages. The priests have been allowed to remain in St. Joseph's Hall as city-hired architects and contractors have investigated conditions at the 46-acre property for the proposed new high school.
We need to tell the MSBA by July 1st, actually June 26th I believe is the official date, what the cost of the project is.
With project deadlines looming, the city wanted keys to all of the buildings for all the required testing, including asbestos and lead paint. Judge Valerie Eurasius didn't grant the keys but struck a compromise. She ordered the Stigmatines to grant immediate access to the city during business hours, but ordered the city not to interrupt ongoing chapel services. The bigger question in court concerned the retired priests. The judge's order said the city has notified the Stigmatines to vacate the property by June 30th. How will they be relocated? Residents displaced by eminent domain are entitled to assistance by law.
General purpose is to make sure the people who are displaced don't suffer disproportionately as a result of takings.
But determining the nature of that assistance is not easy. At issue in court was the number of dwelling units and residents on the property, the subject of much disagreement.
Say that between June and July of 2018, there were 3 to 4 priests residing in St. Joseph's Hall.
The answer is 9 or 10, not 3 or 4.
I'd suggest that puts it over 10.
And we look at that as like one family, not 5 or 6 or 12 or 16 displacees.
If there are 6 or more dwelling units, the city is required by law to file a relocation plan with the state 45 days before the eminent domain taking, something the Stigmatines say never happened.
Was a plan in place before the city of Waltham voted to take this property back in June of 2018?
No, not to my understanding.
But Waltham City Solicitor John Servone said the Stigmatines failed to meet the threshold.
Now you're up to 3. Provincial House is 4. They don't reach the 6.
The city did hire relocation agent Michael McParland last August, and he set foot on the property in February. He testified that he couldn't get a straight answer on the number of exact priests living on site. During a second day of testimony, Father Robert White named 6 priests and a live-in caretaker, but he was challenged by Servone on whether they lived there full-time.
In the sense of permanently living physically in the buildings of 554 Main Street, 554 Lexington Street, I apologize. Most of the days of the week during June to July of 2018, did they?
Probably not.
For their part, the Stigmatines were upset that McParland has yet to present his relocation findings.
He says he'd be finished with his relocation sometime in June. So all this time, we've accommodated them, and we don't have a single page of relocation in the formal sense or informal sense.
Servone responded that the Stigmatines just haven't cooperated at all, part of a larger effort to stonewall and delay.
They've never considered leaving the site. That's why they should be stopped from claiming relocation. They've never been willing to participate in it. They have to provide the information and the raw data in order for us to do that.
Judge Eurasius is expected to rule by mid-May on relocation and other legal issues. While the Stigmatines appear perfectly content to litigate, the city needs to resolve all of its legal matters before it affects the project and hundreds of millions of dollars in state school building funding.
We have 4 to 5 correspondence from the MSBA detailing that we must have full control access and ownership of the property before we can enter into a project scope and budget agreement.
For Waltham Newswatch, this is Chris Wangler.